stories, 7 levels. These are some of the most horrifying and unforgettable cave dives ever recorded.
Imagine cave diving. Like that's like crazy, bro. Like you cannot pay me enough to go cave diving, bro. Especially underwater cave diving. And like have y'all seen that? It looks absolutely like torture, bro. I don't know how people find that like amusing. Like you're telling me people go underwater with like an oxygen tank and like hopefully survive. They're just hoping for the best. And you're over here going to cave diving with like little to no experience at all.
Rosa, New Mexico, for a scuba diving lesson. Among them were
A scuba diving lesson.
David Gregg and Mike Goddard, two enthusiastic divers in their early 20s. The Blue Hole was a popular training site for divers, an artisan well with crystal clear water and a maximum
This is training.
diveable depth of 80 feet. But beneath its calm lay a dangerous network of underwater caves that had yet to be fully explored or mapped. When the dive began at 10:30 a.m., everything seemed pretty routine and ordinary. But David and Mike would never resurface. As time went on, their absence was extremely worrying to the group, who began to
Son,
realize that something
Ian.
had gone horribly wrong.
We're
At
reacting to cave
11:35
diving
a.m., the New
experiences.
Mexico State Police
Well,
arrived
I'm
after being
reacting to cave
contacted
diving
by the group,
experiences.
preparing for the search and rescue operation that could save their lives. The divers quickly figured out that David and Mike had ventured beyond the main pool into the cave system located at a depth of approximately 110 feet. But the caves were treacherous, a complicated labyrinth of tight restrictions, loose rocks, and silt that could easily obscure visibility. The entrance alone was extremely narrow, requiring some of the divers.
Look at that. He's at head level. His head is the size of the cave. Caves dive my ass, bro. Swear to God. This shit is just people trying to get themselves killed. Exactly. Look at the level of that, bro. It's the same size as his head. They gain nothing for this. Exactly. Unless they post it on like YouTube, they get like a million views. For what? You're not gonna be able to post again. Look at that, bro. Like that's crazy. And underwater? Nah, you can't pay me
To
to do that.
remove their
There's
equipment
no
just to
money that
squeeze
I'm
through.
getting paid to do
It
that.
took almost no time for the divers to piece together exactly what had happened. With no fixed guidelines to mark their path back to safety, the two
And no,
divers were
and
probably
another thing. Why are they still going? They found this cave. They're still going down like they're gonna get a reward for something. Here's a trophy going down 300 feet. What?
disoriented in the maze like
I'd kill
passages.
exactly.
As time passed, their air supplies dwindled until equipment failure or the emptying of breathing gas led to their inevitable deaths. David and Mike were definitely dead, but the search for their bodies was grueling. On the morning of March 11th, rescue divers entered the cave system on a recovery mission, but trying to navigate the caves was not easy. David's body was discovered later that day in the second chamber at a depth of 125 feet, but his recovery.
You're get your you get your million in the afterlife. Trust. That's exactly what they look at you. They go in the afterlife. You get your money, bro. Not right now though.
Was just the beginning of the ordeal.
Because the thing is, they're not expecting you to survive that.
Efforts to locate Mike continued over the next 2 days, but they kept hitting on triggering cave ins that made the whole environment increasingly unstable and unsafe. In one particularly harrowing incident, a diver was nearly trapped when a 3 foot diameter boulder fell on him.
Hold on. A three a 3 foot boulder just miraculously dropped on you. Yet they're still going deeper, bro. Exactly. What are you doing if a boulder drops on you? What do you expect to happen? Like you don't know the caves yourself. You're just going into it for enjoyment.
Within 2 days, all recovery operations were suspended due to safety concerns. The divers had made
Safety concerns. Concerns. It wasn't that they're for certain that everybody goes down here is not going to survive when they go back up. They were just concerns. Yeah, no.
11 efforts to locate his body, and all had failed. Weeks passed with no movement before the divers returned to the cave system to resume recovery efforts on April 25th. This time, divers reached deeper into the cave system than ever before, down to nearly 200 feet, and finally located Mike's body on their third dive at a depth of approximately 177 feet. But it required another dive to extract his remains due to the extreme difficulty of navigating the collapsed passages. Local authorities moved quickly to tackle the problem. To prevent further loss of life, the city of Santa Rosa sealed off the cave entrance with a steel grate. They ordered 2 dump trucks worth of rocks to be poured over the grate to ensure
Is that somebody's body on top of the entrance? Yo, they put a freaking body on the on the top. This is what's gonna happen if you go inside. That's crazy. Yo, imagine the stories. Like if these people actually come out alive, imagine the stories they tell you. Like they just call me up. Yo, bro, I went through Satan's butt crack underwater yesterday. It was crazy. What do you mean you went through Satan's butt crack? What? That's crazy.
no
That's
one could
actually
ever
crazy.
access the deadly corridors below. For decades, the cave was closed until 2013. In 2013, the ADM Exploration Foundation finally received permission to begin examining the system again. Exploration Foundation finally received permission to begin examining the system again.
They came back. For what? For what? What do you gain out of this? Like, you don't gain anything, bro. They came back, but for what? What was the reason they came back for? It's confusing me, bro.
And, of course, 3 years later, another tragic fatality occurred when experienced
What do we expect to happen? It doesn't matter if you're experienced or not. You're going underwater and like cave diving.
diver Shane Thompson died during an ADM expedition to map the cave system, leading to the caves being sealed
It's like, why do you want to map it? If nobody wants to explore it, what's the reason to map it?
once more, never to be opened again. Level 2, Gollum's Cave, aka Cave of Death.
Who is going through Cave of Death? You're telling me people talk about this are like, yo, I went to the Cave of Death. What? Who's going to the Cave of Death? It's literally named Cave of Death. What?
In August 2005, 5 friends gathered in Provo, Utah for what was meant to be a thrilling adventure. Jennifer Galbraith, an experienced caver, had suggested exploring Gollum's Cave, a little-known cavern on the side of Y Mountain. The cave wasn't officially mapped or even documented, and it had an infamous reputation among locals who claimed that many had died trying to.
Your friend just comes up to you, yo, let's go to this cave I found near the cabin. But a lot of locals say many have died. That sounds awesome.
Explore it. However, Jennifer could reassure her friends that nothing would happen. After all, she had been down there before. Jennifer's first encounter in Gollum's Cave wasn't great. She jokingly called it the Cave of Death because
She joked around calling it the Cave of Death. Who jokes about that?
during her earlier visit, the cold water had caused someone to nearly pass out from hypothermia. but she assured her friends that
You're going through caves that are in freezing water. And second of all, why are you going through caves anyways? And third of all, why would you go through underwater caves? It's worse enough you're going through on land caves, but now you want to go through underwater ones? The difference is it's just a more likely death. What?
now knew what to expect and that this knowledge would protect them from any danger. Her reassurances and enthusiasm convinced 3 of her friends to join her, but Joseph Ferguson hesitated. Something about the idea unsettled him, and he ultimately decided to stay behind, waiting outside the cave for the rest of them to leave. In the early morning hours of August 18th, the group arrived at the cave. Armed with nothing more than a single flashlight and guided by Jennifer's confidence, they entered the small opening in the cave floor measuring just 18 by 24 inches and prepared for an adventure they would never forget. The entrance led to a narrow, pitch-black and claustrophobic passage filled with cold water. The tunnel was only about 15 feet long, but dangerously tight. Barely 2 feet wide and 4 feet high,
2 feet wide and 4 feet. Nah.
previous explorers had tied a guide rope from a rock at the entrance to some wood inside the chamber to help navigate through the pitch-black underwater passage.
Nah.
Jennifer,
No way.
having been here
No way.
before, dove first, disappearing into the underwater tunnel that connected the main cavern to a smaller chamber. One by one, the others followed her lead. The tunnel led them into the inner chamber, a cramped space where they could stand in chest-high water under a tapered 6-foot ceiling. For a brief moment, they were safe. But outside, Joseph was growing increasingly uneasy as time passed. 45 minutes later, his concern turned into real panic when his friends failed to return. Unsure of what was happening, Joseph began calling friends familiar with the cave for advice before contacting police at 6:25 a.m. The rescue crews arrived quickly but faced immense challenges in retrieving the bodies from such a dangerous environment. They pumped air into the cave to increase the oxygen levels, lowered the water level by 2 feet to make entry safer. They used underwater breathing apparatuses and air monitors, allowing rescuers to cautiously navigate this submerged tunnel. Hours later, the search teams discovered Jennifer's body first, wedged in the narrow passage where she had seemingly lost consciousness. Her position appeared to have blocked her friends' escape attempts. The other 3 bodies were found nearby. One
The girl that was so confident that she could go through the whole cave and back was the one that blocked the escape route because she was stuck. That's actually crazy. That's wild.
floating in the tunnel and 2 on its floor. All 4 explorers were wearing sandals. 2 of them were shirtless and clad only in shorts. It was obvious just how clearly unprepared they were for this. In fact, that's exactly what happened. Inside the chamber, the group quickly realized that there was limited, if any, oxygen, forcing them to leave quickly. Jennifer attempted to navigate back through the passage first, but lost consciousness halfway through due to hypoxia caused by low oxygen levels and her exertion in the freezing water. As her body blocked the exit, the other 3 tried desperately to escape, but succumbed one by one as panic set in and oxygen ran out, leading to their drowning. The recovery operation involved multiple agencies and dive teams, with rescuers working methodically to avoid endangering their own lives while removing equipment and retrieving bodies from the cave's depths. By noon that day, all 4 bodies had been recovered and transported to a local mortuary for identification before being sent for autopsies. Within 24 hours of the incident, Golem's Cave was permanently sealed to prevent further deaths. The Cave of Death had claimed 4 lives in one night, turning the once jokey name into a very grim reality. Joseph Ferguson's decision not to
I mean, the thing is, who would joke about that? Who just called it the Cave of Death to joke about it? Like, it's clearly not a joke. Anybody could die going to a cave, even professionals, they've said it. Multiple professionals have already died.
birthday tragedy. In June 1986,
Birthday tragedy. He asked to go on his birthday? Nah,
at
that's
just 18
crazy.
years old, Clifford Paulette entered
Wait.
in June 1986, at just 18 years old,
Oh, I thought it said 13. I was like, what?
Clifford Paulette entered Bat Cave with a group of friends. Bat Cave is a complex Florida cave system known for its narrow underwater tunnel.
Is that the picture? Who is going to that? Like, yeah, it looks big, but like, any one of those rocks from high up could just loosely fall.
And unpredictable conditions, making it a dangerous destination for even the most experienced divers.
It's dangerous for even the most experienced. You're telling me unexperienced people. He went with his friends. What does he expect to happen?
Paulette, however, was not equipped with scuba gear or the training necessary.
He had no gear. He had no gear. And he expected to make it out? Nah. Nah, 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 nah.
Necessary for such an environment. He was completely out of his depth. The group had been exploring the cave when they encountered a sump, a submerged passage requiring diving to proceed any further. Despite the lack of proper equipment, Paulette decided to attempt crossing the sump himself by freediving, partly due to his curiosity and partly because of his desire to keep up with his companions. The sump was treacherous. It was narrow, dark, and disorienting. Without scuba gear or a guideline to follow, Paulette quickly lost his way.
I mean, you have no guideline and no gear. It's so dangerous, bro.
As he ventured deeper into the submerged passage, the risks grew more and more intense. Visibility in underwater caves is notoriously poor, and the lack of light can make navigation nearly impossible at the best of times. The confined space only added to the danger. Panic can set in easily when movement becomes restricted and oxygen begins to run low. Paulette's friends realized something was wrong when he failed to emerge on the other side of the sump. They immediately sought help. By then, time was already against them. Rescue divers arrived as quickly as possible, but they faced immense challenges in their attempt to locate and retrieve Paulette. The sump's tight confines made maneuvering difficult even for seasoned professionals, let alone ones equipped with scuba gear. The water's murkiness made visibility even worse, forcing rescuers to rely on touch and memory to navigate the path.
Yeah, no, no, no. So the dumb people who do this with no gear and like want to do it as like a fun thing, like experienced divers go down there. I'm sure they have some certain reason, probably not. Experienced divers probably want to do it for fun, but like people who are unexperienced, they just go for it with their friends and think it's a joke. No gear, no map, no nothing. So then they force experienced divers to look for them just to find out they're dead. Like that's crazy.
Passage. And no matter how hard they tried, they could not reach Paulette in time. Cave system was against them. Paulette's body was eventually recovered from the sump, but the autopsy brought an entirely new light to the story. Paulette was drunk at the time, having been partying and celebrating
He was drunk.
with his friends before the tragedy struck. He died on June 15th, 1986.
You're drunk. No gear, no map, no way of like knowing where you're going. That's a crazy combo. No one's making it out with that combo. What?
just so happened to be his birthday. Level 3, the intestine. On August 19th,
Who's going to the intestine?
2016, a group of 12 divers set out to explore the underwater caves off the coast of Palinuro, Italy. Among them were Mauro Carmadella, Mauro Tancredi, and Silvio Anzola. Three highly experienced divers with a long history of successful dives. Carmadella owned a local diving center, and Tancredi was a dive instructor. These three knew what they were doing and what they were in for. Yet, despite their expertise, this dive would end in tragedy. The caves of Palinuro are known for their intricate tunnel systems and crystal clear waters, which is highly unusual for caves like this. Yet despite that, they also pose significant risks. Many of the caves have silty floors that can obscure visibility with even the slightest disturbance. The three of them were taking part in a training dive with a bigger group, heading down
A training dive. People train for this? Is like an actual job? Wait, I have to search this up. Underwater cave diving is generally not a paid job for the act of diving itself, as 99.9% of cave divers do not receive direct payment for diving. Instead, treat it as a passion or sport. So this is just so cave diving is just like, how do I say this? It's their passion and they want to do it. They don't get paid for it. It's just something they want to do for fun. So they're not even forced to do this. I thought you get like highly paid. No, you don't even get paid for this. You don't get nothing for this. That's crazy.
to explore near a wall known as Immersione in Parete. This wall was known to contain openings leading to various other underwater tunnels. The dive began as planned. The group descended into the depths, navigating through the complex cave system. But at some point, Carmadella, Tancredi, and Anzola separated from the main group. Where they went, nobody knew. In fact, to this day, it's not clear whether they intended to enter the cave system or if they
But I thought they were the professionals, right? So then how did they?
were drawn in by curiosity or disorientation. Whatever the motivation, they entered into a section of the cave known as the Scaletta, or Cave of the Ladder, a dangerous area that few ever visited due to its depth and narrow passages. As they moved deeper into the cave, conditions deteriorated rapidly. The silty floor was disturbed by their flippers, clouding the perfect water and reducing visibility to almost nothing. Without clear sightlines or reliable navigation tools, finding the way out became nearly impossible. It was only at this point that these experienced divers realized they had made a critical error, having forgotten to lay the escape rope along the whole length of the cave's lower passage. Had they done so, they could have found their way out. At 10 a.m., the rest of the group surfaced safely and waited for the trio. But when the three divers failed to reemerge at the designated time, everyone grew increasingly alarmed. Attempts to locate them failed quickly. The murky water made it impossible to see anything inside the cave. Unable to solve this themselves, the group contacted the authorities. Rescue operations commenced immediately, but faced major challenges. The narrowness of the tunnels and poor visibility made efforts almost impossible. Divers from Italy's fire brigade and cavers with expertise in underwater caves joined the search.
So people who are unexperienced pick the most hard caves ever to go explore. Instead of doing like the easy difficulty ones, they just go to the most hardest ones. They do no research. They find it, they go, no gear, no nothing, and just hope for the best.
All hoping to be the one to do the impossible. After 4 grueling hours, rescuers located 2 bodies.
4 hours to find two bodies. 4 hours is crazy, bro. Like that's outrageous.
Camardella and Tancredi, inside a silted-out chamber deep within the Scaletta cave system. Their equipment suggested they had been trapped in a dead-end tunnel with no way out. The recovery of Silvio Anzola's body proved even more difficult than they had expected. His remains were wedged in an especially tight passage further inside the cave. For days, rescue teams worked tirelessly to retrieve him while battling these increasingly dangerous conditions. It took 6 days. They finally managed to retrieve Anzola's body from the scene. The tragedy shocked not only the local diving community, but also those familiar with Pelinuro's underwater caves. Many were asking questions about the 3 divers and whether they were really prepared for something like this. While all 3 were experienced scuba divers, they didn't hold any specific certifications for cave diving, a discipline that requires very different skills and equipment.
They didn't have a certification to be like a professional. They just like called themselves professional because they did it a lot of times. It was successful.
Experts speculated that their deaths were a result of several factors: disorientation caused by silt clouds, potential equipment failure, and, most likely, panic as they realized they were lost in a labyrinthine system with dwindling air supplies. Friends and family mourned the divers publicly on social media, expressing their disbelief that such skilled professionals could meet their end in such a situation. Crush syndrome. In 1992, a caver in Tennessee was descending into the depths of a challenging cave system known as Banshee Hole. His name has never been publicized. He would go on to become one of the most notable stories of caving in the region. The caver had been exploring Banshee Hole alone, which in itself is
Alright,
a
we're gonna do
highly
this last
risky
story and
move.
then we're gonna
The cave
end.
is notorious for
We're
tight
gonna do something
spaces and
else.
vertical drops, requiring serious technical skill and endurance just to get through it. It's not known whether he was able to get into the cave and explore it, but at some point during his ascent or descent, he encountered difficulties that left him unable to move, hanging
He wasn't even able to get to the main part of the cave. He was trying to enter the cave and then he got stuck.
in his harness. Nobody knows whether it was exhaustion or equipment failure, but what is certain is that he remained suspended for approximately 4 hours before rescue teams arrived to help him. The Cumberland County Rescue Squad responded swiftly, arriving within 40 minutes and immediately a situation. It wasn't a total doomed disaster. The victim was still alive, but he was visibly deteriorating. His body sagged against the harness, his breathing labored, and his skin pale and clammy, a clear indication that his circulation was severely compromised. If they were to save him, they had to be extremely careful. The rescuers worked methodically to stabilize him and free him from the harness. They reinforced the rigging to ensure it wouldn't fall, and then every single movement they made was precise, every command deliberate. Time was of the essence not only to extract him, but also to manage the physical trauma caused by prolonged suspension like this. If they could get him out, he potentially had an even higher risk of dying. Simply put, they had to save him right, or they would kill him. Hanging like this in a harness for hours restricted blood flow to certain areas of the body, causing toxins like potassium and lactic acid to accumulate in the compressed tissues. This condition, known as crush syndrome, can become life-threatening when circulation is suddenly restored. The crew eventually succeeded in lowering him to the cave floor, but just as things were looking good, tragedy struck. The caver was carefully released from the harness but immediately went into cardiac arrest. Crush syndrome was claiming him. The rescuers immediately initiated CPR, but despite their efforts, they could not revive him. At that time, crush syndrome was poorly understood, but later medical science began to recognize exactly what was going on. When blood flow is restored after being restricted for hours, toxins flood the bloodstream all at once. In severe cases like this one, the sudden surge overwhelms the victim's vital organs and leads to catastrophic shock or total organ failure. The incident led experts to publicly stress that cavers should never begin rope ascents alone and should be rescued.
Yeah, why would you even go alone? I feel like you should at least go with a guide or at least one of your friends. But like alone, that's crazy. That's like a whole other level than just going with other people.
Quickly if immobilized on a rope. In this case, even being saved is enough to kill you. And while we have you, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Jacob's Well.
All right, we're gonna go do something else.